So Taak is a film about two migrant workers who live in Delhi, who have decided to live in Delhi now. One is an older woman who has been in Delhi for a while. She works as a female bouncer in one of the clubs in Delhi, and the film begins with her being joined by a younger woman from her village and her sports academy, um, a sort of a mentee that she wants to take care of, and this younger woman wants to start working in Delhi. And it's really primarily about this relationship, but then the complications arise when the company that they work for, the contractor that they work for, decides that everyone needs to wear a tracking device so that their time and attendance can be monitored. And that's where the younger woman and the older woman, Shalini and Komal, decide like, oh, they have a disagreement about the idea of being watched or being tracked. And that's really the premise of the film. And then we look at their lives through this prism. And Taak means to stare at someone. So it's exploring the idea of being watched, yeah, or watching someone. Though the trigger for the film was not that I'm a cinematographer, I must make a film about the camera. The trigger was very personal. It came from some incident that happened within my family where we got a certain awareness of, okay, someone's life is being monitored, and I realized like how easy it is in today's times to actually, how cheap and inexpensive it is to actually monitor someone's life. You know, with all these devices around us, they're so pervasive that you can just put a monitoring device on anything. Even your phones can track you. So the idea started from there, and then I got very much interested in this news piece that I was following during COVID, the 2 years of COVID, where I was following this news piece about these MCD workers in Chandigarh, Nagpur, and they were thinking of implementing these tracking devices on sanitation workers in these two countries so that their field work can be monitored. And you know, in quote unquote, create worker efficiency, where the contractors can overlook them from their office and, you know, keep contact with them, and they need to take photos from their watches every day, and the GPS would track them. So this story I started following, and I got very much interested in it because I feel like the workers, when they started protesting against it, they were like, it was causing a lot of mental distress for them, and I wanted to look into like how can a device which is so, I mean, in today's times, like it shouldn't be like so unusual when you look at this tracking device because the gig economy runs on it, right? So how this started causing mental distress to especially women workers, sanitation workers, and I followed that story for a bit, and that's where the genesis of this project was. But of course, as a cinematographer, I feel like I have intimately understood what a camera does to a given situation, or a person that is being subjected to from a gaze of a camera. You can feel the change, or you can feel the heightened reality of that moment, and I've been acutely aware of that during my practice. And of course, you try to create a safe space when you're shooting, but even when you try to do that, you go to various lengths to like try to create a safe space. You know that very easily the camera can become oppressive, you know, if you don't actually have a relationship in that moment with that person. So uh, I wanted to talk about this heightened reality that I've often experienced with many people that I have, as a documentary filmmaker, I've like, you know, looked at them through my lens, and I know that they're experiencing something in that moment, and I wanted to talk about that experience particularly in this film. So yes, it and it seeps into my work because that's where I'm coming from, I suppose. So yeah, this mentor-mentee relationship has a power equation already, you know. So Shalini is always looking at Komal as someone that she needs to help. You know, the savior complex is also a huge thing that I have also experienced in my own life. Whether I am a mentor at some positions or a mentee at some positions, I've always experienced this power dynamics, and this is what I wanted to explore particularly. Um, and you know, like a lot of times, it's the idea of the hidden. Like when you're exploring a topic like this, what my investigation into this thing led me to was like, okay, the film is actually about looking at the intrinsic human value of privacy. Like, why do we need privacy in our lives, right? And what is it? Like, it means that something in your life you have the right to keep private, that you don't want to share with anyone, and everyone has the right to. For your mental sanity, you want to do that, right? um, so so I started off with these ideas in my head, and I wanted to explore it further. um, how I chanced upon two women characters, I feel like the genesis of the story came from my sister. You know, like how what she felt while being watched, and the conversations that we had were very, very strong. And you know, something I realized about that was that, like in the film, you're talking about technology, you're talking about camera, you're talking about a lot of image making, but actually, essentially, you're also looking at why are we okay with these. Why are we okay with surveillance in India? Like India or maybe the South Asian culture, because I feel like the patriarchy has always been very strong. It looks at you and only allows you certain spaces of privacy, especially with women in India. Like if you look at it, and patriarchy doesn't mean men alone. Like this is the entire system where, okay, where you go, what you eat, what you do, who you meet, they're not private subjects, right? They need to be. Everyone needs to be aware that these women are not crossing a certain line. But even then, you find ways to hide things or protect yourself, right? And that comes from my experience with like my three sisters also. Like growing up, like there are certain unsaid things that you don't cross. So I was also coming. It was all an amalgamation of all these things that I wanted to bring in these two characters. Especially when you have that power dynamic of mentor-mentee, like the older woman who has a savior complex wants to help, but she's invasive, right? Like it's not just the cameras that are invasive. Actually, Shalini wants to know everything about her life, and that is really the film where she wants to discover what is Komal hiding so much. You know, what is this deal that she wants to come from the village? It's kind of like how gossip develops, or how gossip develops in your mind, like the curiosity of wanting to know about someone's life so much that you end up putting them in jeopardy. So that was the line of thought. It's not just about the camera, it's actually about Shalini, something very internal, that this need to know about someone else's life is the quality that the film is actually exploring. And that is probably a quality that we all have, like, yeah. So especially in Delhi, like in a city like Delhi, which is heavily like under surveillance cameras constantly, what is the need to know everything, right? So yeah, I wanted to explore that, and it's very important for me to explore this feeling rather than, like, Shalini's narrative is very important for me, because I feel like those are the perpetrators of the system, like those people who have this need and who look away constantly. If see, Komal is a victim, right? Shalini is the perpetrator who looks away constantly, and I'm more interested in Shalini's story, right? So yeah, that's really how it came together, I feel like. And yeah, this line of thought, and then it developed into something. The city that I know actually has a lot of warmth, has a lot of it's but it has a lot of warmth, right? Because I have grown up in that city, but I also know the feudal side of the city, and I wanted to bring that out in this one. There are two sides to Delhi. It's a very warm city, it's very welcoming, it has a lot of space, unlike any other metropolis, maybe, and especially for the working class that the film is looking at. Something to say about my personal life here. Again, my father was a union leader, so I know a lot of. So my father, probably when he came to the city, his experience was as an outsider, maybe something of warmth. But I wanted to explore something like like you said, it's like a city which is feudal. So what does that feel like? Like a feudal city that only allows a certain, even though there's a lot of space in the city, you know Delhi, right? Like there's a lot of space in the city, but there's a lot of segregation also. The unsaid segregation of this is where So where Shalini lives is like Jamna Par, right? And Jamna Par growing up was always this working class idea of a working class neighborhood, right? So the East Delhi of it, and she travels to CP every day, and that's her journey. And in fact, like we wanted to trace a lot of this which didn't make into the film because of many reasons, but there was always this journey that she does from East Delhi to CP and the spaces that you live in. And in fact, like there was a scene where they actually go to South Delhi also. You know, these are different Delhis. That Delhi is not one. Like there are different Delhis, and I wanted to explore that. But in this film, Delhi is not welcoming for reasons that it's purely feudal. It wants to keep an eye on them. And this film, I wanted to explore that side of Delhi. Yeah, but Komal thinks that she'll find freedom in Delhi, so that's why she's come. So there is obviously that she can something that she can find here also. Yeah. DIFF was our second screening only actually. We've just recently finished the film like 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And this was the second or the third screening that we were having. And I think like this is the best response that I've gotten for the film in the sense of not oh people like it or not like it, but I feel the engagement with the film, the things that the film wants to talk about, the hidden things, you know, the things that are hidden underneath the layers of the text, the subtext. I think there's a response to the film which is very genuine. People want to engage, even if you like it or dislike it. That's beyond the point of this any discussion. But people in DIFF have wanted to engage with the film, which is very very positive, and I feel like that's all the film wanted to achieve also at some level.